Hello, Steve White, Trick Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, they're at it again. Did they ever stop? William Shatner and George Takei. What can we say about these two divas? Because we all know George, and William Shatner has been diagnosed as a prima donna by George. So it looks like they're both a couple of divas who just won't stop. I don't know. Part of me is entertained by it, and part of me is saddened by it. Because it was sad to learn decades ago that the original cast, well, they got along, but they didn't like Shatner. So, in essence, the original cast didn't get along because no one liked Shatner. And it was sad to hear that in Leonard Nimoy's last months, refused to speak to Shatner. He stopped talking to Shatner. I guess when you are dying and you have very little time or energy left, you don't want to waste it on negative people and that you don't want to do with arguments. And he probably was being nice to Shatner for years and years and years when he didn't like things that he said and did, and he just didn't have the energy for it. Now, that's my speculation. I don't know either of them personally, but that's one of the things I think that happens when you are sick, and particularly with cancer and dying. You cannot waste time on people like that. So I don't think he just was done with Shatner. And I don't blame him. I just really hope that Shatner's not the last man standing and doesn't get to have the last word. I want George to be the last man standing, have the last word, or Walter, because Walter sort of won't pick a side, I don't think. I really don't want Shatner to be the last Trek cast member standing and have the last word on everyone else, because that would just be so cruel, because he did always get the attention. He was the star of the series, and he did undermine all the other actors on set. He would pull lines and pull things that were written for characters to say, well, why shouldn't the captain do that? He's the most important person. Shouldn't I do that? That should be my scene. And it's particularly obvious in Star Trek 1, where he had control of some of the writing and would contribute lines continually. You'll see scenes, and Nimoy as well. You could see where there are scenes where Nichelle should have been talking about something, or George should have been talking about something, and you could see Captain Kirk is doing that. I'm like, that's not his role. Why is he doing... He's not leaving it up to his crew. He's undermining them, and that was Shatner undermining the actors, wanting their lines, basically stealing their lines, pulling them out of their mouths, basically, and having them cut out and edited, because we don't want people thinking about Sulu and his career and that he's going to be a captain. That undermines Captain Kirk. Captain Kirk's the only captain in Star Trek. That sort of stuff. And I understand why the actors resented him, and they probably made it known to him. If he weren't so narcissistic and self-involved, he would have known back then they didn't like him. It wasn't until he needed them to write his book, because he didn't remember anything about the series and the movies, and he had to go back and ask and interview them, that they were like, okay, now you need us. We're going to tell you what we think about you. And that's when he was shocked to discover they all hated him. Which is not funny, but kind of funny at the time. So they're still going at it. Now, Shatner came out and basically said, well, look, I've tried to understand as best a narcissist can why these people hate me, but I'm just done with it. Why would I want to waste my energy on these people? Because it's all about me, because he's a narcissist. And he basically said that they're all petty and embittered, and, they've been... George Takei's been blackening his name for years, and why would he want to give them any energy, basically? And then, of course, George is doing a play, because, he's George and we love him. He's doing a play called, I think it's called Allegiance, or Allegiance. Oh, God, I don't know how to pronounce the name. It's about the internment camps and all that, and, that's one of his legacies that he's sort of working on and being creative with. He's done a comic book. I think he did a book specifically on it. He's working on this play. It's in London, and he's doing a lot of interviews, and of course people are talking about Shatner, because Shatner just mentioned he's got a book out as well, and he just mentioned he mentioned George. He's like, I don't know why these people keep talking about me for press, using them for press. And then George said, well, you know what, I have other things to talk about, more important things to talk about, so I'm not going to mention Bill's name in this interview, like I just did. But yeah, basically said he's a cantankerous old man, he's going to leave him to his own devices. So hopefully we won't hear George say anything about William until he's finally, having the last word. And I want him to have the last word. It was great that he was in Lower Decks. We thought it was going to be Shatner for a moment, and then it's George, and Boilerman, whatever his name is like, oh, even better. And I'm like, yeah, even better. So yeah, now, like, I mean, Walter Koenig's still alive. They're the last, like, sort of surviving original series characters. And he's always been a bit odd and not particularly friendly in person. I didn't connect with him. I connected with the other actors that I met, and I had moments with them, George and Michelle. And I don't want Walter getting the last word, nor Shatner. I want George to have it. But like I said, at least George would sort of, not George, I mean, at least Walter would sort of be in between. But I want George to have the last word on this, because I don't like Shatner. I met him personally, he was horrible. He's just a narcissistic a-hole, and that's why no one likes him. And he just can't process it. He can't get it. He can't understand it because he's, like, not a good person. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. I guess I'll be commenting on their next little moment